lined up.
Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it. Medeiros is going to
He haven't got it!
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still start trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry!
And you're on.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Radical Race Series for another round of this great championship, Season 2 of 2023. And after this round we'll be at the halfway mark already in this championship. We near the end of our American opening to our season. Just Daytona to come next week, but that's as well as this one. The Virginia International Raceway, with all of the twists and turns and all of its no room for error that you get around this circuit. It's going to be a very, very interesting one in a championship that is just getting more exciting as the weeks go on. My name is Ewan O'Leary. I'm alongside James Parfitt for the evening once again. It's great to be back again, James. It's been a good opening 5 weeks to this one. We're about to hit the halfway mark of this championship, and we're going to see some, a very challenging racetrack, first of all.
We are, partly because we've seen a lot of people take a little bit of a diver off the side of the track in practice, of course. It's a very tough circuit. I think that's the thing. You know, they've got nearly, 12 corners to deal with. 17 all in all that are going to be really causing them problems. And I think overall, if it's anything like Watkins, I'm going to be very, very impressed, because Watkins was incredible. You know, the track length here tonight, 3.27 miles, 5.262 kilometres in length. And it's been very tricky. There has been people going off track, the likes of Simon Edwards, gone off Paul Clark's, gone off Mike Bousson, so they've all taken trips off the side of the circuit. And as we saw there as well, by the looks of it, Seth Brown, nope, he went round there sideways. But, you know, it's going to be definitely a tough one here tonight, mate. I'm looking forward to it, though.
I'm absolutely looking forward to it as well. It's been an interesting championship so far, and with the 3 drop rounds that you get in this championship, it does mean that the standings have remained very, very close indeed so far. In this one, we're only counting 2 of these scores, and so Dan Webster is on the top of the standings right now by only 1 point ahead of Paul Crabb. Then it is John McCutcheon who tied with Mike Bousson for 3rd. Simon Edwards is in the 5th position, not far in front of Paul LeMay. That's 5 drivers separated by just 15 points. Luke Maxwell and Paul Clark have a bit of work to do, as does Robert Woodward and Jamie Bird, making up the rest of the top 10. Sergio De La Cruz is in the 11th place ahead of Michael LeMay. Patrick Charlton there in 13th ahead of George Gonzaga. Then it is Phil Glover in 15th, just ahead of Paul Godden, with Wayne Palmer 17th. Darryl Taylor, Phil Jocelyn and Dave Kirkman all make the top 20. David Beasley is in 21st ahead of Seth Brown. Colin Wynn 23rd, tied with Martina Ward. James Child tied with Andy Hugo in the 25th position with Gary Tall. And Graham Brown rounding out the 28 drivers who have taken to the start in a race here so far this season, and 19 of them going to be taking to the track here tonight as well. As you can see, it's very, very close in practice right now, and we have a debutant for the season on board as well. Ben Underdown has decided to join us for the first time this year, actually.
Yeah, I did see from Ben that he put a message out on that he was going to come and join us, so it's great to have him on track, of course. Entering in at round 6 is not always ideal, but I guess from his point of view, you know, it's one that he wants to get involved with. So we'll see him out on track, hopefully having a good race, because I think you got to admit, last week at Watkins was incredible racing throughout the field. It was absolutely awesome last week.
It was fantastic. Let's remind you that Simon Edwards won the 2nd race by having, low wings and making sure that nobody could pass him around that circuit. I don't know if that is going to be quite possible around here, because we have that long back straight right the way from Oak Tree all the way up towards the roller coaster at turn 14. That provides a great overtaking opportunity for you. There's one down at turn 1 as well. It's going to be a lot more difficult for someone to get to the front and keep everybody behind, as Edwards was able to do last time. But it's by no means impossible, and it's still going to be an interesting second race when we reverse the grid.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the reverse grid's always interesting anyway in general. We know that, and it's been like that all season long, which we've absolutely loved. But there's just so many people now that could be up front. You know, Maxwell, Paul LeMay, Hutchinson, Edwards, Webster, Bousson, and even saw Paul Clark, of course, doing his stoutly defensive duties as well. So it's going to be definitely an exciting one. I am looking forward to it. You know, Clark took second at Barber, of course, in the feature because he was just defending like a trooper. So he's going to be there or thereabouts. So really, any one of them top 7 can win.
Absolutely. It's going to be one of those again, and we've seen that all season long. Really, it's not really anything new that we've seen here with the closeness in this one. But all of the races have been close so far, and it's reflected in the championship very much so. But I think the surprising thing for me is that Luke Maxwell is so far down in the standings at the moment, currently 7th. And if we were to compile all the scores together as well, he would still be 17 points away from Paul Crabb, who has scored the most points so far this season. So I think as good as Luke Maxwell has been, his results maybe haven't been quite as good because he has had problems like he did in the feature race at Watkins Glen as well.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one for Luke, I think, this year. You know, it was so close last season, and you know, he's got to kind of go again. He's not had the greatest of starts. He's not had a Luke Maxwell start that we've been used to. I don't know if the change of car has got something to do with that or what the situation is, but I don't doubt that he's going to be back and strong. I think he's going to push on and see how he gets on. He was top in practice, so let's see what happens.
Absolutely. So let's see what happens with this one here. As you mentioned a little bit earlier, 8 laps in the sprint, 13 in the feature, and qualifying, of course, to come first. 3 laps and 10 minutes, but we often don't need the 10 minutes. We did actually get quite close to needing it all in Watkins Glen, actually, but it's not too difficult to get all 3 laps in. A bit of warming of the tyres going on right now. Interestingly, they have actually got a first sector time, so I wonder if we're surely not going to get times on the board here, but we don't normally, but we also don't normally get first sector times in on the outlaps. So there we are.
No.
We have here, but I don't know if that's just a thing I've noticed for the first time or quite what's going on. What is interesting, actually, is the fact that the start-finish line is actually a very long way down the pit lane right here. We've still not reached it yet, and now we do there. So, it's right on the exit there. But we won't get times this first time around. It is an outlap, of course, and we'll start to get them in about a minute and a half's time.
Yeah, they are going to be coming through thick and fast. I'm not entirely sure why that was decided to display their outlaps, but I'm sure we'll find out. As per normal, we'll give it a couple of seconds. Now, Daryl's been in. He said Ben has just dropped out of the session and won't be racing. So,
well, that's an anticlimax, isn't it?
Yes. So he may have come, but now he's gone. So there we go.
Yes. Oh, dear me. Well, it's the same old story.
I don't really know. You can't really say it, have you? He's obviously taken the decision that he doesn't, like Virginia and has gone. So.
Well, exactly. I don't know. And also, by the way, Paul Crabb believed not to be here tonight, and we're not quite sure why that is either.
No, I've not heard anything back from Paul. Unless I didn't see anything in the background, but there we go. No Paul Crabb either, unfortunately, this evening, so that's a bit of a shame for the man that's sitting in second, of course. I suppose technically it can be a drop week for him, so, at the end of the day, not losing a lot, but see how it all works out. As we know, drop weeks are a wonderful thing, and they know how much I love a good old drop week involved with the mathematics as we come towards the end of the season, so it should be an interesting one anyway.
Yeah, I can't say I mind it too much personally, but I do get why you don't like it, and we're going to have a right palaver at the Nordschleife, I can tell you that right now, when we get to the final round. That's going to be a lot of maths. Simon Edwards goes to the top then with the first times on the board, and you'll be glad to know we've got action to talk about. Simon Edwards with the best time so far, ahead of LeMay. Paul Clark slots into third place there. Time's trickling in quite slowly, actually. Luke Maxwell goes into second place there. Who else have we got coming over the line right now? Wayne Palmer goes into 6th right now. Who else here? It looks like we may have had some drivers with issues on the opening lap here, because it really is a very slow train of times coming in rather than the fast-paced stuff we normally get from these qualifying sessions.
Yeah, there has been some people who have had off tracks. I'm not going to lie to you. Dela Cruz, Seth Brown, Martina Ward is registering up some as well. So maybe that's going to be the problem. They were, as I say, they were struggling in practice. So it's going to be an interesting one. This circuit's not easy in general, and you know it's tricky when they go down that run down the start-finish straight. Ben's in chat saying you start behind the start line as well, so you don't even start where the start line actually is. You start a little bit further back. But I've never seen them struggle this much. John McHutchinson is on his first flying lap, so he will get a time hopefully very soon on the board as well. But they're heading around about the 1:39 mark. Maybe get down to early 1:39s. It should be interesting.
Absolutely. We always say this with the qualifying sessions compared to where we were in practice. Let's not forget that in practice you do get about 2 hours beforehand to practice is the idea. And it does help you to get down to a very low time indeed, whereas you don't really get that in qualifying. You tend to wind these ones up. John McHutchinson does get a time on the board here finally. He goes 5th. With Paul LeMay into 2nd. Darrell Taylor up to 3rd there briefly, with Paul Clark up to 4th. Maxwell with a bit of work to do as Wayne Palmer finds himself off the road. Maxwell does indeed put a better lap in, and that's pretty much going to be the end of Wayne Palmer's session by the looks of things, with where he's gone off there. Here is Martina Ward through the final corner right now. Clearly had an off track on her first lap as well in this session by the looks of things. Where is she going to slot into for the first time of her session? It's going to be 9th. A nice opening from her. And a nice opening from Simon Edwards as well. It very much looks like it's going to be between him and Maxwell, as it was a few seasons ago for the title, and indeed last season. They've had some great battles in the past. I think Edwards is going to go to pole initially, but it's then about whether Maxwell can overhaul him in the final moments.
Yeah, well, Paul Crab's in chat. I'm in the departure lounge in Atlanta. Tricky to be there. So that could explain why Paul Crab's not here.
That does explain a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's me. He needs one of them little mobile coffee table rigs that you can get from Paul Clark, that you can just basically set up wherever you are. It's an incredible little rig. Folds out as a coffee table, folds in as a coffee table. It's quite incredible, really.
Wow. That is quite a rock. I've not seen one of them before. Simon Edwards coming up towards the line right now. He has got one purple sector on his way to provisional pole right now. Maxwell will need to respond as Mike Poussin puts his first time into 5th. What has Maxwell got here? It's very dying moments of the session for him. The last lap he'll get here to overhaul his rival over the line for Maxwell, and it's not good enough. Just over a 10th slower than Simon Edwards, and Luke Maxwell will not improve enough to get up onto the pole position. It looks like John McHutchinson is the only one of the real big names with a lap left here. I think Paul LeMay and Darrell Taylor there have already finished their lap times. And indeed, there is McHutchinson already going purple in the first sector. It would be a remarkable jump up from him, though, to gain pretty much a second, which is what he'd need for pole here.
Yeah, he's got a jump, but he's got quite a lot. He's nearly to say about, 8 tenths. So he's got a purple in sector 1. He's green in sector 3. So maybe there's a possibility, but he's going to have his work cut out as he comes down that run from the oak tree down to the roller coaster.
Absolutely. It's going to be an interesting one here. I'm just doubtful as to whether he's going to be able to make up enough time, actually, to do this. Only 7th at the moment. And, to be fair, he only needs about a 10th of a second to jump onto the second row of the grid. So maybe he will just opt for that. But let's see. Into the final corner he's going to go now. And this is the final and latest challenge to Simon Edwards' sure pole position. And it was going to challenge, but McHutchinson just pushed it too far. Off the road he goes. And that will be it. He'll be starting all the way back in 7th place.
Ooh, and that has been the problem. That's what we've seen throughout. A couple of people left on track, Seth Brown and Martina Ward. And as I say, it's not the first time we've seen that during these opening sessions, to be fair. This corner is really, really quite horrible, no matter what car you're in, let alone an SR8. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that people are having problems there, to be fair, because this last corner is, well, just, yeah, that's all I can say about it, really. It's terrible. It's not a good corner for any car, let alone that. I drove around here in TCRs, and let's just put it this way, it was not easy.
Well, I've got to say here, John McCutcheon actually was expressing his likiness for this track actually, and commented on the fact that actually there is no room for error, and when you do dip a wheel on the grass, you do get pulled off like he just did there. I've got to say that I find this track horrific to try. It's not very nice, and not one that I've not got on with very well in the past. But John McCutcheon seemed to be getting on with it quite well actually in practice. Clearly, his qualifying session at least has not gone to plan, and I mean that's doesn't show anything bad on him, I don't think. It just shows what a difficult circuit this is. Simon Edwards was able to tame it best, though. He's alongside Luke Maxwell on the front row with Paul LeMay and Darrell Taylor with a fantastic qualifying session for fourth. Mike Bootson will be alongside Paul Clark on the third row with John McCutcheon, as we were just saying, seventh. Sergio Dela Cruz with him in eighth. Championship leader Dan Webster all the way down in ninth with George Gonzaga inside the top 10. Seth Brown and Martina Ward are on row 6 with Paul Godden and David Beasley behind. Then it is Wayne Palmer and Phil Jocelyn on row 8. Ben Underdown won't be taking the start, but I believe Phil Glover and Michael LeMay will be, to make up 18 drivers to begin 8 laps of a sprint race around the Virginia International Raceway. There is the pole sitter, Simon Edwards, in a familiar position. He won the second race at Watkins Glen, but in the first race, he was a little bit slow by his standards, I think it's fair to say. He had to do a lot of defending from the front, which he was able to do. Now, is he able to do it from the front after qualifying up here? Well, we've not got very long to wait and find out. Mike Bootson and John McCutcheon just sorting themselves out, getting themselves onto the grid to take to the start of this one. Edwards currently 5th place in the standings, by the way, only 11 points off Dan Webster, who finds himself down in 9th place right now. And in the sprint race, you don't lose quite as many points for that, but you do still lose some. And Webster will be trying to alleviate that as much as possible as we go forward with this race. The lights are on and they are out here at VIR, and it's a fantastic start for once by Luke Maxwell on the outside line in towards turn 1. Dan Webster's gone nowhere in the midfield, but it's side by side for the lead. Edwards holds the inside and he'll hold the lead as well as Sergio Dela Cruz goes very, very wide. John McCutcheon's made a good start. He's up to 6th. But it's a dream start for the 5-time champion. Simon Edwards leads out in the first sector.
Yeah, Webster, Martina Ward, David Beasley and Michael LeMay have all been involved in their own little incidents towards the back there as well. And Michael LeMay, Phil Glover, David Beasley, Martina Ward are down the back end of the field. There is the recovery of Dan Webster. He got caught up in some incidents as well, but he's managing to hold on currently at the moment. But that is back up with your front 3 as they are at the moment. One of the other things we've got is Paul Godden tucked up right behind Seth Brown as they come around and through turn 11 and 12 for the first time.
It's a big train from first down to 11th right now, with Dan Webster removed from it and quite a few others as well. Phil Glover is right at the top of the back of the field right now, and Phil Jocelyn's gone off down at, I think, possibly South Bend at turn 10. Oh dear, it was after that actually, sorry. It was down at turn 11, just after South Bend, and he goes back to the pit lane and break. Already the end of his first race. Maxwell really under pressure here from Paul LeMay in the top 3. Very close together as they run through the roller coaster. The 16 very effective on a very long back straight that could provide the overtaking opportunities today. And it might well have done for John McCutcheon, who's already inside the top 5.
Yeah, he's up 2 places currently as well. Mark Hutchinson, Seth Brown, George Gonzaga and Paul Godden are going to be coming together as well as the race goes on. But it is very tight up front at the moment. Edwards and Maxwell with Paul LeMay as well. Paul LeMay has been an outstanding improvement this year as well, hasn't he? He's been absolutely incredible this year.
Certainly has, and I can't put my finger on quite how he's managed to do it either. It's been wonderful to see, though, from Paul LeMay. Comes into today's 6th place in the standings, but that's not representative, in my opinion, of quite where he could be by the end of the season. Mike Bootson's having a good season as well in terms of consistency, especially. This is the most consistent I think I've seen Mike Bootson for quite some time. We've moved to the SR8 once again. Into the S's section we go. Not too much of a lift through here, really. South Bend, where you really do have the challenge, the high-speed challenge that it is in these cars, and it's quite a conundrum what setup they might have gone for, because you've got the high-speed corners that you'll need the downforce for, but the straights as well, as Edwards is off! Edwards off down at turn 12, down at Oak Tree. The race leader with a mistake, and he's surely been in the wall as well. You can see it on the left-hand side as we look at it here. Simon Edwards has been off from the lead. He's been in the wall as well, and it was an unforced error for him as well, a rare mistake. Let's have another look. Let's see what happened. He's just run it too hard into 11. He's caught the grass. He's got it into the wall at turn 12, and that's exactly why we say there's no room for error around here.
No, it's definitely not. It's dropped him all the way down into 11th place now. He's mixed up with his Seth Brown and Gonzaga battle. And Maxwell is now out in front of them with LeMay about 4 tenths back. There is Luke Maxwell. There is Paul LeMay from Two Brothers Racing, tucked up right behind him. And we've got the team raglines of Buson and McHutchinson. Of course, Paul Clark going to try and defend hard from Sergio De La Cruz. Dan Webster making his way through the field, just gone past Seth Brown. So it's all going to be whether or not how much recovery Simon Edwards can do here. His front left is pretty beaten up. You can see it there sticking up in the air. It's not good. But as I say, you touch the grass, it's just a one-way ticket off track, as Paul Clark has found out as well.
Big contact here. Paul Clark is involved, Gonzaga as well. And I'm sure there was somebody else, Seth Brown, I think maybe was caught up in that. He still seems all right, actually. So maybe it was just those two. With a big incident just out of NASCAR Bend there and towards turn 4 at left hook. And there was certainly some contact going on there. Not entirely sure how that all started, but Paul Clark has certainly lost out as a result. Here is another look. So Clark is just up in front of Sergio De La Cruz here. Clark goes wide into the grass. He comes back on. He's not quite in control. And Gonzaga left with almost nowhere to go, and somehow everybody else avoided.
Yeah, that could have been very dangerous for Dan Webster as well, that, to be fair, because Webster was going to be involved in that one if Paul Clark hadn't stopped it. I think the problem with that is once you're on the grass, that momentum just carries you back across track. And unfortunately, that's where he came. He came on, got a snapper grip, and just couldn't stop the car from going into Gonzaga. So I'm surprised on that one there as well. But Mike Buson still got Hutchinson behind with Paul LeMay, Luke Maxwell. And then he got a gaggle of cars behind Dan Webster, Seth Brown, Edwards, Clark, Godden, Ward is another one as well before we go out into a further group from her, who's got a group of people behind her as well currently at the moment. Palmer, Gonzaga and Beasley there. But it is all about what's going to be happening in here with Luke Maxwell, Mike Buson and John McHutchinson.
It's absolutely going to be all about these four in this one. Maxwell, LeMay, Buson and McHutchinson. 1, 2, 3, 4. Darrell Taylor still inside the top 5 right now. And considering where he's been so far this season and what he's been able to achieve, this is a fantastic performance so far. Well outside the top 10 in the points at the moment, but having a great race right now. Luke Maxwell extends out to just about a second's worth of a lead. Looking most threatening in this group is certainly John McHutchinson, but I just don't know whether he's going to have the amount of time to be able to make the overtakes that he needs to in this one, although he has done it in the past. He's shown many times in the past that he is very, very strong when starting from the back.
Yeah, he has as well, and obviously let's not forget he's up 3 places. He started down in 7th and is now tracking Mike Buson down that very long run from the Oak Tree down into the roller coaster. So let's see how he gets on. The gap's going to be closing down. It's down to about 2 tenths at the moment. Is it going to drop down a little bit more, 2.5 tenths before they get into this tricky section? Left, long right, then a left, straight left, and then a right round the final corner. And it is a horrible section of track. It really is. I was not a lover of this in the TCR any more than I'm a lover of it looking at it in the SR8.
Absolutely, it's not particularly nice.
No.
If we're absolutely honest, but there we are. We have to deal with these things from time to time. John McHutchinson has been enjoying it all week, as I mentioned a little bit earlier on, and he's right behind Buson at the moment, but no overtake available to be made. And I wonder whether we're seeing the other side of VAR right now, in that it might be quite difficult to overtake at times around this circuit with the amount of twists and turns that you have. It just makes life a little bit more difficult in terms of actually making an overtake, as McHutchinson seems to be finding right now.
Yeah, there just doesn't seem to be room for him to be able to close up. I tell you what though, Phil Glover is tucked up right behind Michael LeMay at the moment, and Michael LeMay, of course, brother of Paul, they're very close on track as they're heading round. There's somebody off now, number 14, that's George Gonzaga. I think he's tucked off. There he is as well. And a rotten evening so far from Gonzaga. He just cannot keep that car on the black stuff at the moment, but Mike Buisson is trying to keep John McHutchison behind him, and it's going to be a very, very tough situation here for Buisson to try and keep John McHutchison behind him.
I think Gonzaga might have a bit damaged, by the way, but holding him back a little bit at the moment. 17th place in the order right now. There's the view back from Mike Buisson, and once again, John McHutchison not really able to get very much closer to him, but Paul LeMay is getting quite close to Luke Maxwell down these straights, I've got to say, and towards turn 14 he's getting quite close. When he's in the slipstream, when he's on the straights, he does seem quite strong, and that is going to mean that when he tries to make an overtake, it might well be possible, as it isn't for the rest. We might just have a look in here. So let's see. Looks down the inside, fastest lap of the race so far. Maybe as we enter the final third of this one, maybe it's not quite over just yet.
Yeah, I think it'll be, do you know what, if Paul can get past Maxwell, I think it'll be well deserved. You know, he's been incredibly strong, and I think from his point of view, he will look, obviously apart from Sebring, where kind of the front two didn't get off the line, of course, and, you know, went further back and then involved in an incident in one. But, you know, from his point of view, he'd be well deserved, I think. I don't think anybody would be disappointed if Paul LeMay took this victory.
Absolutely not. I wouldn't imagine so, because he's been driving very well so far this season. And I believe he... oh no, so it was 2 second places at Road America, wasn't it? I'm trying to think whether he's won the race this season so far. But I can't remember off the top of my head, to be honest. I couldn't remember when we were doing one race and now we've got double. Goodness, can't remember at all. So this could be a great opportunity for Paul LeMay, but it is for Luke Maxwell as well. Neither of these guys particularly standing great in the standings at the moment. Luke Maxwell has had the pace on numerous occasions, should I say, but not quite the look and the race going his way and all of those other kind of things you need to win races. None of those things quite in his favour so far this season. So 2 laps to go at the line, and he could be earning some much needed points here.
Yeah, I don't actually believe that Paul LeMay has won at all this season. I don't think he's been lucky enough to get a victory, but never say never. But then again, Darrell Taylor has just done the fastest lap of the race, which is unbelievable for Darrell. He's driving out his skin here this week, sitting in 5th place. McHutchison has still got Buisson in front of him. There's another battle down here with Seth Brown and Simon Edwards. Darrell Taylor, Paul Crabb basically turned around and said, that's not going to help Simon's low drag strategy, which we know he runs notoriously no wing. And then Paul LeMay is having a great season so far. He definitely is. But that from Simon Edwards is, damage he really doesn't want, unfortunately. But self-inflicted, and unfortunately for that, can't do a lot about it. He will be on the second row in the reverse. Paul Clark is currently your pole man. So that should be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think in terms of damage limitation, not quite literally, of course, for Simon Edwards, but in terms of points, then it certainly is just about staying inside the top 10 here, as Darrell Taylor's found himself off the road, I think Darrell Taylor's off down here. He is. Oh, he was having such a good run, and he's nosed it into the wall at Oak Tree. It's he's had a bit of trauma getting out of the wall there as well, actually, and he'll go down the top 10, or outside of it, indeed. Oh, Martina Ward goes off in sympathy. Oh dear, quite a way off the road as well. We do get some wide open expanses around here, but there we are. Such a shame for Darrell Taylor. We were just saying, you know, fastest up of the race so far, and he was running so well, but unfortunately he has dropped down outside the top 10, and well, that's it now for him. Really unfortunate as well, because he was having a great run.
Yeah, final lap of the race. McHutchison did clear Buisson. So McHutchison is in 3rd place. Dan Webster is behind Sergio De La Cruz at the moment on the final lap of the race as well. I'll be surprised if Dan stays there. I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to have a go at De La Cruz. So we'll keep an eye on this one. But it is Maxwell out in front by about a second. Paul LeMay there 1.3 seconds ahead of John McHutchison, who's got half a second to Mike Buisson. Webster and De La Cruz are next on the list in 5th and 6th.
Webster might as well take this point here, because while it would move him further down the order in terms of the reverse grid, he would be only one position further down because these two are going to be sharing row 3. Instead, it just depends which way round they'll be on the starting grid. Webster applying all kinds of pressure here. Because Webster not suffering from any damage, by the way, but just a poor qualifying and a poor start as well. That is setting back here, but he's not actually got any damage, which is holding him back, which has held back some of the other championship contenders who are further down the order, like Simon Edwards right now, and Paul Clark as well, who's minding traffic a little bit at the moment. Good exit out of Oak Tree, though, from Dan Webster, and there might well be chance to gain one more point out of this as they go up towards roller coaster and turn 14 for the final time in this 8-lap sprint race. It's not an easy opportunity by any means, and Sergio De La Cruz not making it any easier either. He goes a little bit wide, and Webster will have to do it on the run to the line if he does at all. Luke Maxwell, though, is going to take another win here in the Radical Race Series. This time it's sprint race victory at VIR. LeMay just comes home second. John McCutcheon does get on the podium in the end, ahead of Mike Boonson by a couple of attempts, and it's very close over the line. Sergio De La Cruz holds on by mere hundredths there, ahead of Dan Webster and Simon Edwards, who finished his 7th as well. That was a very, very close finish for 5th.
Yeah, it was. They went over the line, literally barely 1,000th of a second apart from each other at the moment. Darrell Taylor's going to rue the moment he went and hit the wall, unfortunately for him. And it looks like Wayne Palmer, has gone off track again. He's not having a good start to his evening. So, unfortunately for Wayne Palmer there. Another off track towards the end, but that's no surprise considering where he was, obviously being in that wonderful section known as the roller coaster.
Yeah, and not for no reason either. It's no surprise when you drive through it. Here are the race results then after 8 laps of racing. At the Virginia International Raceway, Luke Maxwell taking the win by just under a second ahead of Paul LeMay. John McCutcheon joins them on the podium with Mike Boonson 4th. Sergio De La Cruz held off Dan Webster for 5th. Right to the line with Simon Edwards bringing his damaged car over the line in 7th. Seth Brown 8th ahead of Paul Clark, who recovered from that same issue that happened through NASCAR Bend. Then Paul Godden, who will be on the front for the reverse grid. Darrell Taylor just misses out after heartbreak late on. David Beasley, 12th ahead of Martina Ward. Then it will be Phil Glover, who finishes there 14th. George Gonzaga there in the 15th place ahead of Wayne Palmer. Michael LeMay and Phil Jocelyn didn't get to the checkered flag, and neither did Ben Underdown, having not started the race. But those two DNFing from the race. Well, an interesting first 8 laps. Now 13 laps coming up, and I just wonder, having seen that, how easy it's going to be for some of these drivers to make their way through the order, because it wasn't that easy in the sprint race by any means.
No, it definitely wasn't, and it's going to be one for people to really try and get to grips with. This circuit, as I say, is not one that's loved. It's one that's discussed, but that's about it. And it's not something generally you see on people's calendars. I would say, when we looked at getting together another league for the JPB on a Wednesday, VIR was not even on the discussion for that. But then again, I wouldn't want to see GT4s racing around here. So, all in all, I think some of these drivers are going to come off here thinking, they wish they hadn't had this track. I'm not going to lie.
I'm not surprised. I would have been one of them if I was racing in here. But there we are. It's just a bit too difficult, to be honest. And the wide open expanses as well, by the way. The walls on occasion are quite close to you. Particularly down here as you get to NASCAR Bend, for example. We've seen Oak Tree, Simon Edwards and Darrell Taylor finding the wall in the same race. But then you've got corners like the final turn where you can end up miles away from the racetrack before you can get back on it. So it's one of those circuits, really. Paul Godden, though, is going to be tackling it first here in the feature race. He'll be alongside Paul Clark in the reverse grid. Seth Brown and Simon Edwards, one to watch there from 4th place. Dan Webster will be one to watch from the top 5 as well as Sergio De La Cruz. Then it'll be Mike Boonson and John McCutcheon on the 4th row. Paul LeMay and Luke Maxwell 1 and 2 in the first race, 5th row of this one. Darrell Taylor and David Beasley sharing row 6 at Martina Ward. Then it's Phil Glover in P14. George Gonzaga is 15th with Wayne Palmer 16th. Michael LeMay will hope to get to the end of this one, and so will Phil Jocelyn from the back row of the grid.
Yeah, and of course...
Go on.
Paul Godden there from Sim Stickers, one of the primary sponsors for this evening's race. You can check them out. Links are down in the description below.
Absolutely, and he'll be having to do them proud here with the start of this one. It's the feature race from VIR. Paul Godden and Paul Clark on the front row. But a great start from Simon Edwards, as he so often does. Oh dear, off the rope for McCutcheon already. It's 3 wide for first, as Simon Edwards goes from 4th to first in the opening corner of this race. A fantastic start from the 5-time champion, and he'll lead through sector 1 for the second race in a row. Martina Ward has also got off, and Luke Maxwell with second race trouble. Once again, he's down to 17th. McCutcheon's down to 18th. There's been no shortage of drama through this first corner.
Yeah, I don't actually know if Hutch made it off the start, to be honest. I've got a funny feeling he may have spun up on the start there. We'll have a look back at that in a minute. But Ward, Beasley, Parfitt and Maxwell all involved on that one.
Goodness me, that was quite a start, and not in a good way for some. That's Michael LeMay, I think, who's back in the pit lane at the moment as well, which is a shame to see. He may not return here. Sergio De La Cruz has pretty much stayed where he was. Dan Webster's gone backwards for the second race in a row as well, as they go through Oak Tree. Paul LeMay has made a good start here, there's no doubt about that. He's up inside the top 5, but nobody has done quite as well as Simon Edwards has in this opening moment. Once again, he's leading the second race as he did 1 week ago.
Yeah, he definitely is. He got the jump at the start, took that second lead, and he was gone. Paul LeMay battling away with Sergio De La Cruz here as well. So Paul LeMay in 5th, up 4 places. De La Cruz up, actually staying where he is currently as well. Darryl Taylor's gone down again, and unfortunately is into the pit lane. So Darryl Taylor, from what was going to plan on being an epic evening of racing, he's now dropped out and is down into the pits. Dan
And
Webster.
that's Sergio De La Cruz who dips a wheel off, but Dan Webster with all 4, and he's miles off the road. Down to 9th he'll go. He'll retain that place at least, but George Gonzaga gets through. Phil Glover will bring the rest of them with him, as Paul Godden's off at turn 1 as well. Think he's miles off, down at turn 1. Very wide indeed. Webster will immediately gain another place back. There's so much going on right now, it's quite unbelievable. Gonzaga has been overtaken by Webster as well, as Seth Brown puts all the pressure onto Paul Clark, who's now the rolling roadblock here in second.
The rolling roadblock of Paul Clark. Yes, we have come accustomed to this. It's not the first time we've said that. Here, sitting in second place at the moment, he's going to do it. He's going to be so tough to overtake, and this track is so tough as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he hangs on for the full 13 laps here. I really would not. Paul Clark there as well, but yeah, it's been a bit of a tough one for some. Let's have a look at the start at the beginning and see if we can catch quickly what happened here.
We pick apart any of this mess, because it was exactly that. McCutcheon's going to get slammed there by someone.
Maxwell.
That was Maxwell. It was Maxwell who got into the back of him, and McCutcheon's going to be pretty furious about that, I've got to say, because there was no need really. And there's Martina Ward and Luke Maxwell making contact. It was just one of those cases of 3 wide in towards turn 1, and there's not really enough space around there for that.
No, there's definitely not there currently at the moment, but Seth Brown is under pressure from Mike Bousson. Not only is he trying to go forward, he's also trying to look behind him as well. Paul LeMay has cleared him, so Paul is now trying to get hold of Paul Clark, and as per normal, we know how tough that is.
We certainly do. Luke Bousson is certainly the closest to making a move down here towards turn number 1. He very nearly goes down the pit exit there. Instead, he's forced to opt for the outside. And that's very deep from Seth Brown, but he pulls it up in time. And LeMay very nearly got slammed into. De La Cruz, though, down the inside. Mike Bousson there with the surprise of his life, you'd imagine. Wasn't expecting De La Cruz to get involved there at all, but he certainly did. And punished Bousson for attempting to make the move.
Yeah, Bousson ended up losing places there from De La Cruz rather than trying to go forward. And unfortunately for him now, he's got dropped down to 6th place. Paul Clark and, of course, Paul LeMay battling away nicely here as they go on to this run around through South Bend in turn 10.
Well, this is quite a race already. This one, through South Bend they'll go in towards Oak Tree. We're not too far away from that long back straight where they might be able to make the difference. Seth Brown very close to LeMay here. And LeMay never seemed too strong through the first half of the lap, I've got to say. He always seemed to come into his own at the second half, and with the good straight line speed that he has. Seth Brown under a lot of pressure, and Sergio De La Cruz, who has some straight line speed on him here. Oh, and he's got it already. Up in towards turn 14. He's done it. And that was barely any contest there. The straight line speed he must have is remarkable.
Yeah, he literally just used that draft. He went cruising past him as if he was just stood still. And that was it. It was job done. Sergio De La Cruz was through. But overall, it's been an outstanding race from these guys in this little pack, of course. John McCutcheon just quit update. He's currently sitting on the back of Martina Ward. So I'm sure he's going to be looking at trying to make this move down into turn 1 as well and try and come back through. Of course, he got unfortunately hit by Luke Maxwell there and didn't seem to go. Well, unfortunately, Maxwell got an absolutely barnstorming start off the start, and Maxwell just went into the back of McCutcheon.
Yeah, I think he'll be pretty apologetic about it for Mast after the race. Maxwell, who was also down the field, by the way, down in 12th, with McCutcheon just in front of him. They're all behind Wayne Palmer at the moment, who's, well, I suppose they're all behind Phil Glover, actually, for 9th place. It's all very close. You can just about see the group in the background of this shot here of the leaders, so it's all very, very close at the moment, as I'm afraid Martina Ward has gone off in the opening moments. That's through left hook there at turn 4. That she's gone off the road and down to 16th place. Further up the order, though, it's still Paul Clark, who's under a lot of pressure from Paul LeMay in towards Oak Tree. It's a good exit from LeMay here, and surely there's going to be at least an attempt up in towards Roller Coaster. When you've got slipstream like this and a chance like this, it's not one to be missed from Paul LeMay. Here he goes to the outside line of Paul Clark, who will squeeze him. They'll be side by side in the background as well. But Clark is surely going to have to give this one up. LeMay gets up into 2nd place. Seth Brown can't follow through here. Mike Bootson will go back through, and he will get back into the top 5.
Yeah, now it's De La Cruz, and obviously Dan Webster decides to come and join into the battle as well. And this is turning into a 5-car train. I think Paul LeMay is going to try and escape down the road as best as he can. Paul Clark's going to be defending like an absolute trooper. We say that so often from Paul there. And he's got De La Cruz, who we know has got some straight line speed in that car, who will look at trying to close him and get past him, probably from the run from 6 down to 9, maybe into 10 if he can.
Well, Seth Brown didn't make that too difficult for Dan Webster, who's now up to 6th place. You just may have seen in the background, but I think this is going to become a 5-car train pretty soon. LeMay is going to get away. Side by side between Webster and Brown very briefly. Seth Brown tried to go through. Webster held him off, and they'll remain in the group. It's going to be Paul Clark under pressure next, and if Sergio De La Cruz has anything like the straight line speed he had that took him past Mike Bootson, then he should be able to get through without too many major problems into turn 14.
Yeah, I think that's where he's going to be looking at waiting. He might as well wait. We know he's got some pace in that car. He's got to nail the exit out of Oak Tree, though, because if he doesn't nail it, he's going to be under pressure from Boutson, and it looks like Clark's gone wide.
Well, that's all he needed. That is all he needed. The mistake from Paul Clark, the rare one, to be fair, to De La Cruz with not a lot of space to actually get a good exit, but he doesn't really need it with the straight line speed he's got. He'll be through as they get it towards turn 14, and it'll be a podium place for De La Cruz as well. He makes it stick, and behind, Boutson tries to follow through. Webster right there as well. They're all behind Paul Clark, who's going to continue now to fall through this group.
Yeah, he's going to try and get back up. He's got to try and keep in the draft of De La Cruz. LeMay's cleared off down the road. He got past Clark and he was gone. De La Cruz looks like he's got some pace, mind you, so it's going to be what Boutson can do. Further back, Palmer and McCutcheon. McCutcheon's on the grass again for John McCutcheon. He does all that hard work, and then unfortunately it all goes in one foul swoop. Phil Glover now with Luke Maxwell is under attack as well.
Apologies, this final corner there for McCutcheon. And by the way, as Glover gets down the inside of Maxwell, that will be a position. Oh dear. Glover to the inside. Oh my goodness me. Maxwell to the outside as well. He'll look to cut back in and maybe go for it. Oh, this will be lovely into turn 4. He's done the over and under, and he's nearly got it done. Glover holds on well. Maxwell's done. He gets into the grass on the outside, and Maxwell's gone again, I'm afraid. The second time this race. He's ended up down the field. He's back to 15th, and once again, he's got good pace and good at getting through the traffic as well, but I'm afraid it's going to be another day of losing points for Luke Maxwell.
Yeah, John McCutcheon nearly got into the side of David Beasley there. That was very close. Beasley's now under attack from Paul Godden. Of course, Godden was on pole position and unfortunately he's dropped down the order, now down 13. But Paul Clark has got Mike Bousson for company on this run down into turn 14.
Side by side, Bousson aggressive on the outside of 14.8. Oh, goodness, very wide. And through 15, Clark returns the favour with an outside move. He'll be back to 4th. Bousson still behind with Webster to pressure him as well. Out the final corner they'll go. Slipstream galore as well here as they come towards the line. Bousson's surely going to give it another go in towards turn 1, although it hasn't been too popular for him so far because last time he tried it, Sergio De La Cruz got down his inside. He'll go for the inside himself this time though. Down at turn 1 and he will be up to 4th place. Clark on the outside. Webster will try and follow through. It's always dangerous at NASCAR Bend. Around the outside. Webster very close to losing it. He's held on to it. Goodness me. I'm not sure how, but he's not up a place. Clark holds on and Webster somehow hangs on to 6th himself.
Yeah, further back from that, McHutchison has just cleared Palmer and has now got Jocelyn. McHutchison's not given up. He's giving it a good go. He's getting up, making mistakes, going off, coming back again. So he's going once more now as he's got Phil Jocelyn and Phil Glover, the two Phils in front of him. Maxwell's going to try and take the inside line on that run through 8 and 9, I think, here, Ewan, and he does make it through.
Oh, very nice. I know I was saying the S's aren't too much of a problem earlier on, but that's not when overtaking. It really is very tricky. And John McHutchison has made that look very, very easy, in fact. And now we'll have 9th place in his sights. Just look at the way he catches up to Phil Glover already in this one, and he'll be wondering what could have been, really, because if he hadn't have had those issues off the start, then, well, he really could have been challenging it even for maybe a podium place. Simon Edwards seems to be gone in this race.
Yeah, Edwards 5.5 seconds down the road there from LeMay, who's got 1.4 over De La Cruz. So it's really about everybody picking up the pieces here this evening at VIR, and the circuit has claimed its fair share of drivers, should we say?
It definitely has. That was an offline there from Phil Glover. John McHutchison's going to be through here shortly. Over the line they'll go. He's not going to get there before the line. He just seems to struggle a little bit on straight line speed here, but he's more than good enough on the brakes for this. Glover goes to the middle of the road to try and defend and across the nose of McHutchison as well, maybe making his life a little bit more difficult than expected. But he runs wide through turn 1 and into 2 and 3. McHutchison will indeed get through, and that might be it for him now with 6 laps to go, including this one. That near 6-second gap is going to be a tough one to close.
Yeah, definitely as well. I'm really quite pleased about how generous some of the contenders are being towards me, says Paul Crabb in chat as well. So Paul's sitting there loving this currently in the airport, as we say, in Atlanta, with only really Simon Edwards making an indent on him. Dan Webster's not really gained much out of him as well. And of course, we've seen John McHutchison make a few mistakes. So really, it could turn into not a bad evening for Paul Crabb, even though he's not here.
Well, I think so, because he's going to get 51 points added to his score, by the way, because that's his best drop round so far. So that will be added as today gets replaced. Oh, slam into the side from Dan Webster. And Paul Clark has been shovelled out of the way there. Almost like on a snowy day in your back garden. Dan Webster has cleared Paul Clark out of the way, and he's up inside the top 5.
Yeah, he definitely is now, but now he's got Seth Brown tucked up right behind him as well. Further back, Paul Godden, Wade Palmer and Phil Jocelyn with closing Luke Maxwell. Of course, we know how quick Maxwell is. Bousson, fastest lap of the race, 1:39.772. Seth Brown locks up going into turn 1. He's got to try and get that right hander under, sort of tame it really, to be able to get the run up through the S's if he can. Over Dan Webster. Webster carrying damage there. You can see it clearly on his rear, Ewan, and it's going to be an interesting one to see how this materialises for the next 4 laps.
Certainly will. And I think there's not many without damage, to be quite honest, at this stage in the race. There's been a lot going on so far. And there certainly has been for Luke Maxwell, who's once again going to have to try and make his way through these guys at the front. Paul Godden's down in 13th place, having started this race from pole, just behind Wayne Palmer, who's applying the pressure to Phil Jocelyn, and they're all behind Phil Glover at the moment. And this is the 5-car train right now for 10th. It does seem, though, that Maxwell is going to lose points once again because for the second week in a row, he's just not had things go his way in race 2, despite winning race 1 here tonight. He's going to lose 19 points here to Simon Edwards, and that's only if he gets into 10th place here to get up the order and into 10th. Right now, down in 14th place, he's losing 23 points to Simon Edwards in this race. You can't afford to keep doing this in the second race.
Yeah, but it's always a struggle, isn't it? That reverse does kind of put everybody up in arms, and of course he got caught up with McHutchinson, and then he got caught up in the Martina Ward incident. So from Luke Maxwell's point of view, not a lot of it has been his own doing. Yeah, the John McHutchinson, he got a flyer, John didn't go anywhere, and Luke just hit him, unfortunately. But, is it really his fault? Who knows? It's the tough one, and then, of course, getting caught up in all that incidents. But he's got 4 cars within touching distance, and he's got 3 laps to try and do in him. So I'm not saying it's not out of reach, it's just going to be a very tough job for him.
I think it's going to be, I think it is. We'll see what happens over the course of the next few laps and whether Maxwell can recover a top 10 at the very least. That's Scotland just defending a little bit into NASCAR Bend. Maxwell will go around the outside anyway and force Godden to take a shallow line in towards turn 4. But it won't come to anything because of the twisty nature of the next few corners. It will all... Oh, no, he's gone again! Luke Maxwell gone again, and that will be 14th place, pretty much confirmed for him now. Oh no, he's gone back to the pit lane. It won't even be that. He won't even finish today. That is such a shame for Luke Maxwell, who was just having a terrible time here in the feature race.
Yeah, he called it a day. He went off and decided enough was enough there for him. So that's it, Luke Maxwell out as well. Dela Cruz and LeMay have got the gaps down to below half a second here. Dela Cruz pulling out some lap time over Paul LeMay. He must have done a very good job, mind you, because he was literally quite far back at one point, but he's pulled 8 tenths out over 3 out of the last 5 laps. So Dela Cruz is not hanging around here, and this could come to a battle on the last 2 laps of the race.
It certainly could. The fastest lap of the race so far from Mike Bousson as well. So just as we thought these fights up here inside the top 5 were over, maybe we've seen that they're not quite. We've got some time, we've got enough time remaining here, and Paul LeMay certainly has enough gap to lose as well, or got enough positions to lose, I should say, with those behind him right now. It's going to be an interesting fight here. Dan Webster more than 3 seconds back, probably won't get involved, but you never know. And I certainly don't think anybody's going to touch Simon Edwards here, whose lead is now nearly 6 seconds.
Yeah, I think he's got a god, to be fair. I think from Edwards' point of view, he's wrapped up there as well. A bit brutal from Dan, says Crab in YouTube. It definitely was. There, he knew he had to force the issue, didn't he, with Paul Clark? And unfortunately, probably the contact, I'm not entirely sure, may have been needed. But there we go. But Wayne Palmer has now got onto the back of Phil Jocelyn. He's got his teammate Paul Godden behind him. They've got Phil Glover in front of him. It's the battle of the fields down in 10th and 11th place at the moment.
It certainly is. There's a lot of Phils and Pauls around in this series, I've got to say. Could have a championship just with them, to be fair.
Yeah, it wasn't as good as the John O'Johns and the John Johns, wasn't it? The other in the SRL we had.
Yeah, that was a right nightmare. I do get these things occasionally in any broadcast, to be fair. Over the line again for the penultimate lap now for Paul LeMay, who's still hanging on here with Dela Cruz and Bousson just behind.
Oh, Bousson goes a little bit toasty into turn 1. But the gap has been coming down lap after lap, and it's come down again. He's got another lap to hang on to try and wrap this second place up. And then running wide there is not going to help him, but you think he might have just got away with that one, to be fair. So from Paul LeMay's point of view, he is under a whole heap of pressure from Sergio Dela Cruz.
Absolutely is, and it's only getting worse as this race is getting older here. Penultimate lap we're on right now. Final one to come after this. Bousson very, very threatening as well right now with Dela Cruz, and that could be the saving grace for Paul LeMay here. If these two fight for the final podium spot just enough, then maybe LeMay can get away. Down towards turn 11 they'll go, and through Oak Tree as well. Be careful not to go too wide here, Bousson. He doesn't and he'll get very close, but maybe not the exit he required there.
Well, we're going to find out. He's got it down to 1/10, mind you. Yeah, he's got 1/10.
Webster's off. Dan Webster off the road, down at turn 11, I think that was.
Oh, and he's out.
Another shame. Yeah, he's out the race as well. Down from 5th place to 14th. A huge loss of points for the championship leader. And as Paul Crabb was saying earlier on, this day can't be going much better for him.
Yeah, he's got Webster and Maxwell out. So he's had a bit of a favour around him in the championship. But Buson now is going to come across and have a go at De La Cruz. Final lap of the race here, Ewan. Which way is he going to go? Is he going to try and take the outside?
He's gone to the pit exit again. He tried this earlier. Inside line. De La Cruz goes to the outside of LeMay, who's under pressure here as well, and doesn't seem to have the straight line speed. So slide from De La Cruz. He holds on to it, but he's only down to 4th, I'm afraid. A big slide and a big save, but I'm afraid that will be it for him. It will be between these two for second now, I think.
Oh, it's going to be Buson.
It is. Inside line at turn 6, and he'll get there. The mistake from the May has cost him second place, and Mike Buson might well just run away with this now.
He's saving grace for Paul LeMay. He's got that run from 12 to 14. Don't worry, I can't count, but there's no turn 13 on this track. It is a straight run from 12 to 14 coming out of Oak Tree, and this is going to be the saving grace for Paul LeMay. Is he going to be able to get this run down, Ewan, from here into 14? Buson's gone in a little bit hot. LeMay's going to need to get an exit here. He's got it down to 3 attempts. It's possible.
It is possible. Buson did go a little bit wide there, but as long as you don't end up in the grass, it's all right, and you can actually pull it back for a better exit. LeMay's got the big slipstream here now, though. He might have a chance down in towards turn 14. He's gaining all the time. He will have a look on the last lap, and he won't get through. Buson will hold on here. Oh, and De La Cruz throws everything at it as well. He'll drop down from 4th place, but further up the order, it is Simon Edwards who will win yet again in the Radical Race Series for the second feature race in a row. He shows again why he's a 5-time champion with a fantastic drive and particularly a fantastic start this race from him as well. Buson and LeMay will join him on the podium, with De La Cruz losing quite a bit of time on the last lap due to that problem, but he won't lose his 4th place.
Yeah, and then we've got the 2 sim stickers boys of Wayne Palmer, Paul Goddard. They're coming round as well. The final lap now, final corner, sorry, as they're going to be on this straight run down. How's this going to work out as they're going for it down to the line? Palmer gets it. So there we go. Just about, yeah.
11th place, and a good fight actually from those 4 in particular during the entire race. They were glued together and didn't really leave each other alone through that one. So it was certainly interesting, and Will Glover ends up with a 9th place. We'll chat to him a little bit later on as David Beasley rounds off the night with a 13th placed finish there, and quite a few retirements from that race, it has to be said. 5 retirements indeed. Simon Edwards, though, 8 seconds worth of victory for him there, ahead of Mike Buson and Paul LeMay joining him on the podium. Sergio De La Cruz threw everything at it to get there himself, but could only finish 4th. Seth Brown inside the top 5 here in the second race, with Paul Clark 6th. Joe Gonzaga 7th, with John McCutcheon recovering to 8th. Phil Glover and Phil Jocelyn rounding up the top 10. Wayne Palmer and Paul Godden battled to the line for 11th. Then it's David Beasley 13th. Dan Webster with that late problem DNFing and finishing down in 14th. Luke Maxwell losing points as well from 15th. Martina Ward, Darrell Taylor and Michael LeMay also having not seen the checkered flag in that one. Well, quite a few issues for quite a few drivers in that one, but yet another championship-defining one. And a day, I think, defined best points-wise by Paul Crabb, who we've said time and time again, is going to be very pleased with how this evening went from his point of view.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. He's going to be sitting there rubbing his hands together, because even though, obviously, Maxwell, LeMay and Hutchinson got points in the sprint, they didn't do so well in the feature. You know, Hutchinson down in 8th. There was Paul in 3rd, mind you, but Dan Webster, Luke Maxwell, 14th and 15th. and it was Dan Webster who's in front of Paul Crabb with John McHutchison behind him. So he's not going to be doing too badly here. And, you know, I'm going to be interested to see how this one turns out. Nick there as well. Great stuff keeping the SR8 going. Still my favourite over the SR10. I think there's probably some drivers that agree there, Nick, and some probably not so much. And then Paul Crabb comes in with, that was an exciting last lap. It definitely was there as well. But you got some interviews waiting for you, Ewan. Who would you like first?
Don't really know. I think we'll go Paul LeMay, shall we? For first of all, since he finished highest up out of those in there at the moment. Paul, welcome to the booth again. Good to have you with us. Another podium in the feature race, and 2 podiums for you tonight, actually, in the end. A very, very hard fought second race, though. Just tell us a little bit about what it was like to battle around a circuit as kind of narrow and as difficult as this one.
Hard work, Ewan. Hard work. Race 1, I was sort of okay. Race 2, I was struggling towards the end with the tyres a bit. I overworked them, and I could see Sergio catching me and Mike, and Mike got through. I made a little mistake. It's just one of those things. But congratulations to Simon and Mike.
Absolutely, they also put in good performances. I mean, what's it been like for the championship now as well? We're halfway through. You're still right up there. What are you expecting? Are you still expecting to be there by the end?
Good question. It'd be nice if I was, but you know, these guys are so fast. It's really tough. I just don't know. I'm just going to take it race by race and just really enjoy the SR8 and racing these guys. Yeah,
it's certainly been a bit of a hit going back to the old cars. Fair to say. Before we let you go, Paul, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
I don't know, mate. You guys, because you do such a great job.
You make us embarrassed. While we're here. No, it's no problem at all. But congratulations, Paul, on a double podium here tonight, and thanks very much for chatting to us.
No problem. Catch you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much, Paul LeMay there. Double podium here tonight at VIR. We've not got any of the other podium drivers in there just yet. We'll drag in Phil Glover, though, who always joins us, always up for a chat. Welcome once again, Phil. Good to have you back with us. Top 10 in the second race there, in what looked like a very, very hard-fought race. How was it?
Yeah, a lot of pressure to keep in front of everybody there. But, yeah, pleased with that result. Made up for the first one. Know what I did. I had a really good start, and I don't know, on the first couple of corners I just lost concentration and just went off. There was no reason. Hey ho, it must be my self-limiting mechanism kicking in.
I mean, we can't blame you too much, to be honest, Phil, because it is a really, really difficult circuit in terms of driving. Are you a particular fan of this circuit? Do you like driving around here, or is it a bit of a nightmare like I find it, to be honest, personally?
It's a really interesting track. I've had it for a little while, but I don't know. It's been around for quite a while, hasn't it, I think?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think probably the last time I drove it, because I can't remember us driving it for quite some time, must be about 2 years ago. So I had a bit of a go earlier on today, and then just done the practice, probably got a decent hour of practicing. So, but yeah, I'm sure when you're really familiar with it, it must be a great flowing circuit.
Absolutely. I haven't quite found that just yet, but there we are. Maybe it's possible. Phil, before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
All the people in the league, and also to Martina, who was out in her Mazda this week, I think, or it might have been last week. Anyway,
Still relevant enough. We'll take it anyway. Phil, congratulations on a nice evening for yourself, and thanks very much for chatting to us again.
Yeah, no problem. Look forward to watching the replay.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Phil Glover, talking to us there. P9 in the second race, by the way. Very nice performance from him indeed. Let's go up front, though, to Simon Edwards, who now does join us. P1 in the second race here, Simon. I know there were you were P1 in the first race as well for some time, but tell us a little bit about that start to the second race, because it was quite phenomenal for us to see, for us to watch, 3 wide down in towards turn 1. What was it like from your perspective?
Yeah, I was holding my breath a bit I was hoping that the guys thought, oh, I'm not somebody they need to race. I had to go on the grass a little bit, but I had to do it. For some reason, I'd lost all confidence in the brakes, and after going off in the first race, so yeah, so I'd lost all my confidence, but I had to do that on the first lap, and then hope I could make it.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll pose the same question to you as I did to Phil. What is your opinion on this circuit generally? Because it certainly does bite when you get things wrong, as you discovered in the first race.
Yeah, and I don't think I've done that the whole practice.
Yeah, it's typical, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I just locked the inside wheel and then I just couldn't get it back. But I've known this circuit because it's one of the early ones, and I've been here 10 odd years or whatever. So Skip Barber's, even the Solstice round here. So I know the track really well, although they've remodeled it with taking the tree away, exactly where I went off.
Yes.
Which I preferred the older circuit actually, because you could use the inside curb near that tree as a sort of guide. This one's a little bit trickier to find the apex.
Yeah.
But I enjoy the circuit actually, I really do.
Yeah, R.I.P. to the tree, by the way, which was struck down by a lightning strike in real life, not in our racing, but it's been removed here as well. But there we are. Before we let you go, Simon, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
The tree. Let's give a shout out to the tree because I missed the tree.
We all missed the tree. It's sadly no longer there. I actually thought they knocked it down initially, but no. Unfortunately, nothing we can do about that, unfortunately. Simon, congratulations on the win here in the second race, and thanks very much for chatting to us again.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Simon Edwards talking to us there and explaining condolences for the tree, which we all reflect. There we are. Mike Booson now joins us as well, podium in the second race. Mike, welcome to the booth as well. Good to have you here. Dear me, can't speak. A successful evening for you overall, I was going to say. And great battling as well, I've got to say. We thoroughly enjoyed it in the second race. How was it trying to find your way through various cars and get on the podium?
Yeah, evening, chaps. Really enjoyed it. I thought to myself at the early part, I thought my race is going to be hard. And to be fair, it was a little bit because obviously Dan got a slow start, got boxed in, so I got stuck behind the Paul Clark train for a bit. Seth was fighting his little heart out and sort of put me on the back foot with La Cruz. And then I started to reel them in on the last few laps. I saw they were starting to get a little bit twitchy, and I thought to myself, I'll start sort of trying to quali lap this. Pulled up to him, thought white flags come out. I'm not going to get a chance here, but I just stuck my nose where I could and paid off in the end.
It was a great last lap to watch between the three of you, I've got to say. In terms of a little bit earlier on in that race, it was obviously all a bit tricky. But I want to talk a little bit about the season as a whole for you, because I know you weren't able to attend the first round, but since then you've been remarkably consistent, I've got to say. All of your point scores have been within 9 points of one another for the last 4 rounds. I think this round will also come into that category as well. What is it about this car that's helped you be so much more consistent this season compared to some previous?
I think when we were last in the SRA, I wasn't on the pace of the top 4, but with going from the SR10, going back to it, I think it's just progression for me. The car suits me a bit better, so I'm just naturally a bit faster in it. And to be fair, I'm doing virtually no practice in a week. It's sort of just before the races, so I'm really happy with what I'm getting out of the car based on the lack of time I'm putting into it, to be fair. So I'm happy.
Absolutely, and why not as well? Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to here, Mike?
I'll give a shout out to John. I was really struggling. He helped me out with a setup, and between what I had before and he had, I sort of merged the two and come up with what seemed to be a pretty good package in the end.
Yeah, I really liked this circuit as well, just John. Shame that couldn't quite convert in the second race in particular there for him, but there we are. So these things happen like that sometimes. Mike, congratulations on a nice evening for yourself, though, and thanks very much for chatting to us.
Thank you very much. Catch you soon.
Thanks very much, Mike Bookson, chatting to us there. And finally, we've got Paul Godden, who will also join us now. Paul, welcome to the Boom as well. Good to have you here with us. You were in quite a big fight there. We've already spoken to Phil Glover, who was at the front of the train. You were very much embedded within it for most of that. How was it battling around this circuit?
Yeah, it was a really good race. That second race started on pole. Didn't really have the pace to be on pole, but that's what a reverse grid's about. And I thought I'd just, got a nice start. And I was expecting Paul Clark to be behind me at the start. And next thing I know, Simon's coming up the inside at a great rate of knots. And I laid just enough room for him to get through. I need to watch it back. I think I might be giving him a little tap around the first corner. And then coming into the first corner on the second lap, I just ran out of brakes. And I think running the heavier fuel and not silly, I didn't run any practice with a real heavy fuel on it. And my braking points were slightly out. Ran off, ended up at the back and thought, do I give up? Do I carry on? And then I thought, I'll just carry on following John around, see if I can learn a bit from different lines and stuff. And then I found myself in a great battle with both the Phils and Wayne Palmer for, I think, 10th or 12th place, I think it was in the end. But it was really enjoyable. But every time you caught them, you just could not get past. It was a bit frustrating, but overall, it was a great race.
Yeah, this circuit is like that from time to time. I mean, what's it like trying to drive around in one of these cars in particular, but any of the cars as well? Because I've got to say, from a personal point of view, I always found it very unnerving, the fact that when you tip one wheel off the grass, all of a sudden you either find yourself 3 miles from the circuit or in a wall. And I know you found that at Turn 1 in particular, finding yourself off the road, and it takes forever to get back on. So how is that kind of getting past that very unnerving feeling of knowing that if you make one mistake here, it's going to cost you an awful lot of time and more time than it would do at other circuits?
Yeah, it's I view it as a bit of a road circuit in a way, because on a road circuit you've got no room for error. So when I was doing my practice this week, I was thinking, right, normally if you hit a bit of grass, you can get away with it. But here, like you said, you're either miles off and then game up, or some of the barriers are really, really close. So I viewed it as, more of a road circuit. Kept it a little bit. I wasn't on my optimum pace during the race and just backed off a little bit just to keep it clean. And unfortunately, it was just a shame I ran out of brakes into Turn 1, because the plan was to just sit there behind Simon, let the quicker guys go through that I know I can't keep up with, and then settle for like 5th or 6th place and have a good evening. But unfortunately, that never worked. But it's a really unusual track. It's a great fun track, very fast. A lot of the corners, when you're behind the other car, you can't see the apexes either. So it's a lot of blind turn-ins and stuff. But overall, it's a great fun track to race on.
Well, there we are. Paul, congratulations on a nice evening for yourself. I know maybe it didn't go as planned, as you said there, but either way, congratulations, and thanks very much for chatting to us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Paul Godden, chatting to us there, as you can see on screen as well. Nice performance from him this evening, nevertheless. Another great round of the Radical Race Series, though, here, James. We've reached the halfway mark of this season now, and we're going to move away from America a little bit during the second half of the season. You may be glad to know, or maybe not. We'll be heading to the Daytona International Speedway next week, and we're going to have a bit of a discussion within the week whether we want a standing start on the banking or whether we're going to do a rolling start. I'm not sure. We've already done one rolling start this season, let's not forget, back at Zandvoort. That was by accident. I wonder whether we're going to do one on purpose next week.
I don't know. That's going to be one.
Would be funny.
It would be good to have. Don't get me wrong, because they can start out on the back by turn 7 and roll it from. Well, actually, they'll be on the back straight before the second bus stop, of course. So. Yeah, that could be an interesting one. I'm going to have to get Darryl Taylor on that and see what he's going to come up with. Because, as you say, last time, by mistake, he set it up as a rolling start. Or iRacing changed it, whatever, however it was. But that is the last visit to America, though. We do go on to Suzuka, Spa, Mount Panorama, Imola, and then finish off at the Nordschleife. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Tonight was a cracker, as well as it always is here for the Radical Race Series. And, yeah, it should be a good one going forward, I think.
Absolutely. Make sure you join us in 1 week's time, but make sure you stick around on the JPB YouTube channel because there's plenty more racing coming up, as we've said many times in the past. But for now, we will sign off. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside James Parfitt here for the evening. And until we see you once again next week at the Daytona International Speedway, it's goodbye for now.